All right, here we go. About to rock and roll. Let me just send this over to the Facebook real quick so we can go ahead and get started here. Let's see. Today we're talking about the amazing power of self acceptance. Share a few thoughts and answer any questions or concerns. All right, so we got YouTube rocking, sent it over to Facebook. Now we're going to get what's this thing called? Instagram popping. And then we're going to talk about self acceptance. So here we go. Let's see here. Boom, boom, boom. There we are. Got all the devices rolling. Let's see here. Let me get this going. Boom. There it is. All right. I'm going to send this out to a couple of folks. Self acceptance. That's what we're going to chit chat about a little bit on this lovely afternoon. I've been struggling to keep up with the days. It's Memorial Day was Monday, and I don't know what today is. I've been a little off since Sunday, but yeah, doesn't matter. I'm here. The day doesn't matter, but it's a beautiful day, and we're going to talk about self-acceptance. So let's see here. Need to send this to a couple of folks so we can go ahead and dive in on this good old chit chat. Please don't be shy with the questions. There we go. All right. I sent that to some folks, and I'm going to wait about a minute and then dive in. The replay, I suppose I can edit this beginning part out. I don't know if I feel like it. Who knows? Maybe I just leave it. Anyway. Just waiting on a couple of folks to jump on here. My guy, SJ, happy belated birthday, good brother. I hope you celebrated yourself and really, really enjoyed yourself on yesterday. Let's see. All right. We're going to talk a little bit about self-acceptance today, what that is and why it's so important and why it's so powerful. And why it's something that we should be pursuing with everything that we have, quite honestly. I'll explain a little bit more about why and how, of course, in a moment. Self-acceptance, that's what we're talking about. Have to hydrate, of course. Had a goofy rainy weekend here, but it actually, I think it kind of helped us out a little bit, washed away a lot of that pollen that I've been rumbling with the past couple of weeks. So feeling good, feeling good, much, much better. So let's see here. So we got Instagram and YouTube going, Facebook, and all right, let me just get this here. Need to get a camera because this is anyway. All right, so about to dive in. So self-acceptance, right? Self-acceptance, what does that actually mean? Self-acceptance is simply being on your own side, right? I'll start there. Being on your own side. What does that mean? Not being in an adversarial relationship with yourself, right? Being on your own side. But what does that look like? Right? How does that show up in our lives? How does self-acceptance show up in our lives? How do we accept ourselves? What do we need to accept? Why is that even important? Let's talk about that for a moment or two. So self-acceptance, this is what it looks like, right? It's the willingness to accept or to take ownership for the thoughts that I'm thinking, the words that I speak, the actions that I take, no matter what they look like, right? Whether or not we're proud of them, agree with them, are happy and excited about them, that's secondary to us accepting it, right? So if there was a goofy thought that crossed your mind, that was you that thought that thought, right? If you said something, if you did something, if you have a habit or a pattern of doing things a certain way, that's you, right? And the challenge, right? The challenge that comes when we are unwilling to accept ourselves fully, it shows up almost as, not even almost, it shows up as denial, right? We're denying ourselves. And this is an internal thing. So it impacts us internally, which in turn, of course, affects us outwardly. So outernally. so so anyway, so as we go throughout our days, right, there are going to be we're going to interact with ourselves, and there are going to be thoughts, there are going to be feelings, there are going to be things that show up in our lives, and if we aren't willing to accept them, then the opposite is we're denying them, right? And that denial, what that does is it boxes us in, right? It stunts our growth. It keeps us from being able to make any forward progress, right? Here's the thing, right? Without self-acceptance, healthy self-esteem is impossible. So if we don't first accept who we are, accept kind of where we are, right? It's impossible for us to have healthy self-esteem because we're going to always be in a constant battle with ourselves, right? So, and it shows up in very, very simple things that we'll miss, right? We'll overlook. Here's an example, right? My wife will say, let's say she says, hey, babe, do you, I need to go to Target. Do you want to go? And inside, sometimes I do want to go, but sometimes I'm like, oh my God, no, you couldn't have asked me at a worse time, right? So my answer will be, no, not really. No, not really. I don't really want to go. But if you want me to go, I'm all in. Let's go have a ball. Let's go tear Target up. Right. So why is that important? Right. Why is that important? So I'm acknowledging the feeling, the thought, right, that I really don't want to go. So I'm paying homage to that. I'm accepting that this is my present reality. There's a part of me that doesn't want to say no to my wife. There's a part of me that, there's all these thoughts and all these things that show up. But in that moment, the way that I honor myself, right, the way that I am accepting of myself is to be completely honest with myself and with her. So I answer honestly, no, I really don't want to go. But if you want me to go, I'm willing to go. And the reason that I say, let's go, let's tear it up, let's have a ball, let's do it, I'm all in. The reason I say that is because I don't want to do things reluctantly. I don't want to bring a bad attitude or negative energy into the thing. So it's either I know I don't want to go, or excuse me, I'm either going to stay home, right? Because I really don't want to go. Or if I go, if I'm willing to stop what I'm doing and make the sacrifice and invest that time and energy into us for a few minutes at Target, then I'm going to be all in. I'm not going to do it and have an attitude. I'm not going to do it and be a party pooper. I'm not going to do it and not show up as the best version of me. So I'm not going to walk around a Target pouting, right? I'm not going to go sit in a corner somewhere and act like a poopy head because I didn't really want to go anyway, but I just went because you wanted me to go. No, right? So self-acceptance is me acknowledging that I didn't want to go, right? Being honest, right? And then the second part of it is just the willingness to, the willingness to sacrifice, right? But the big thing that I want to point out is I'm acknowledging the fact that I didn't want to go, because if I don't, let's say I lie, oh, sure, let's go. But inside, I really didn't want to go. Now there's this internal conflict taking place because I'm saying to myself, well, I thought you said you didn't want to go. You don't really want to go. And now I'm having this goofy, like I said, this internal dialogue, and it's impacting my energy. It's impacting my state. And now that's when I'm not showing up as the best version of me, right? It's taking from me. The situation, the moment is taking from me because I wasn't honest with myself, because I didn't accept the fact that I didn't want to go, right? So that's a very simple illustration, but this is something that we do all the time, right? And again, it shows up in a lot of different ways. So what do we do, right? And what do we do? So self-acceptance is super important because, again, its opposite is denial, right? Its opposite is having that internal battle going on. Because if there's something going on in your world inside of you and you're not willing to own it and accept it and you fight against it, then what's happening is you're in a place where, how do I want you don't have inner peace, right? That's a better way to put it. You don't have inner peace because you won't accept the reality of your thoughts, right? The reality of your words and your decisions. And so what happens is there's this battle going on inside of you, which in turn causes there to not be any peace on the outside of you. There's no peace in your relationships because there's no peace within you, right? So if you feel like, you're often misunderstood, you have to say, okay, am I really taking ownership? Am I taking responsibility? Am I accepting who I am and where I am in the moment? Because oftentimes I'll feel one way inside, but I'll act out something another way. And that inner civil war, that inner turmoil will show up and it'll impact our relationships negatively. And at the root of it is my refusal to accept all of me, right? So I'm trying to think of another way to put it, right? So oftentimes we don't want to accept things because perhaps that thought didn't align with the person that I want to be, right? I see myself here as this individual who moves and thinks and conducts himself this way, but that thought didn't align with that. And so what I'll do is I'll try to reject that thought as if it wasn't me, but that was you. That goofy thought was you, right? And the thing that we have to understand is that, and why self-acceptance is so powerful, is that it's impossible for us to move forward if we don't accept all of us, right? How are we going to grow? How are we going to build? We're never able to figure out our starting point if we don't accept ourselves, if we don't accept where we are in the moment. So how are we going to grow? How are we going to develop? This is why you see people who are in relationships and they seem to not be able to grow. This is why you see people who have been sitting in church for 20 years and they still have the same goofy habits, right? This is why you see people who are doing the work on the surface, and the growth, the change is not showing, it's not reflecting in their lives. Beneath all the junk, there's some things that the person is refusing to accept about themselves. And until that happens, no growth work is going to take place, right? You're going to be stuck in the same cycle, right? You're going to be stuck in the same place because your refusal to accept where you are is keeping you from taking the necessary steps to move forward to where you want to be. So self-acceptance is also choosing to value yourself, right? Because oftentimes it's not only negative things that we don't want to accept, right? Oftentimes we don't want to accept our value. We don't want to accept how freaking awesome we are. And so again, there's this battle going on because a part of us is like, yeah, I do that well. But then there's a part of us who is afraid to speak up, is afraid to lean into that, is afraid to walk into a room and carry that sort of energy. So it goes both ways, right? So it's important for us to self-acceptance is choosing to respect ourselves, right? Choosing to treat ourselves with respect, right? Choosing to stand up for our rights, for our values, right? For our thoughts and opinions, choosing to speak up and stand up for ourselves. This is self-acceptance. Oftentimes we will just bite our tongue, as we like to say, and not speak up in a given moment because we feel like we don't really have a vote, or I don't want to admit that bothered me, right? That upset me. I didn't like that particular thing that was said or done. So I'm just going to bite my tongue until it bleeds. Well, what we're doing is we're causing, again, we're disrupting, disturbing our inner peace, because now that little voice is saying, no, that I don't like that. We need to do something. And then there's a part of you that's fighting that and holding that back. So now in here, there's all this turmoil. So the way to bring peace within yourself, right, is to be accepting of all of you, those thoughts, those feelings. Again, all of those things, we have to get to a place where we're able to accept all of those things, right? And so it's like this, right? It's, how do I want to say this, right? I'm having trouble articulating it. It's like this, right? You can't be comfortable, right, without your own approval. There we go. So if you find yourself like constantly uneasy in situations, right, always feeling like you're misunderstood or you're an outcast, right? Oftentimes we'll frame it that way, right? People don't get me, I always feel like an outsider. And we'll say these things and we'll put the blame on the outside world. But what's really happening in these situations is it's extra challenging for us, almost impossible for us to be comfortable, right, without our own approval. So when we're denying parts of ourselves, what we're saying is we don't approve of these particular parts of ourselves, right? These parts of me aren't acceptable. So I'm going to deny them. I'm not going to own them, right? So what I'm basically saying is I don't approve of me. I don't approve of this part of me. I don't approve of these thoughts. I don't approve of these words. I don't approve of these feelings. I don't approve of, this particular part of me. So that denial, right? That inner civil war, that battle causes us to be uncomfortable, right? Causes us to, I like that. Causes us to be uncomfortable, causes us to feel misunderstood, causes us to feel outcasted. Is that right? Outcasted, whatever. Causes us to feel misunderstood. I like to use that one. I think that kind of captures it. So a lot of times we are feeling like we're blaming the people around us because they just don't get me. Well, could it be that there's some inner turmoil going on and that's what's causing your discomfort, right? You haven't yet approved of yourself. And so why is this important, right? Why even talk about this? Or why don't we? Let's look at that first. Oftentimes, most of us look at it like, if I accept this, I'm in agreement with it. And that's the thing that we have to understand, right? Acceptance doesn't mean like I'm resigned to this feeling. I'm resigned to this present reality. No, what I'm saying is, right, that it is what it is. This is the present situation. And now accepting it, it gives me the opportunity to now find a way through it, to now find a way to grow and develop and to change, right, this particular thing that I'm not so proud of, perhaps, right? Just using that as an example. So acceptance doesn't mean I'm not signing off and I'm not in agreement that this is the truth that I want for my life. But what I'm saying is, in this moment, it is what it is. And it's really freeing when we get to this point, because again, the inner turmoil is gone. So now I'm not battling within myself because I'm pretending like something didn't happen, but I clearly know it happened. And then it's affecting my behavior. It's affecting my speech. It's affecting everything. And then oftentimes, again, I feel misunderstood or I feel uncomfortable in situations because I'm having trouble. I'm having a problem accepting parts of me that I have deemed unacceptable. Right. So it's a challenging thing to kind of put in words, but it's a challenging thing to put in words, but to simplify it, I'll say it like this, right? Self-acceptance is the key to finding your starting point for growth and transformation, right? Self-acceptance is the key to finding that inner peace that we all desire, right? Self-acceptance is how to find our footing. A lot of us are kind of slipping and sliding and kind of just going through life at the mercy of the wind, right? At the mercy of the tide. self-acceptance gives us a way to plant our feet, right? It helps us to plant our feet and decide on the direction that we're going in, right? Self-acceptance is at its root, at its core, it's a necessity for healthy self-image and self-esteem. So as we grow, as we build, as we develop ourselves, what we find is that once we're willing to accept all of us, right, then we're able to build and to grow and to become that higher expression of ourselves that we desire, right? And what we often do is we often do it, one thing, one piece at a time, and that's fine, right? So it's like, okay, I'll own this piece and I'll work on this piece, right? So it's like, if I'm like, man, listen, I got to do something about this gut. I'm accepting that the gut is there, right? Maybe for the past year, I just bought larger shirts, right? I just sucked it in when it was time to take a picture, right? I didn't want to deal with it, right? I didn't want to acknowledge what came with the fact that I was packing on a few pounds, right? That's a thing for a lot of us. And so what happens is we are not owning it. We're not acknowledging it. We're not accepting that this is my present reality. Therefore, we're not putting our foot we're not taking the necessary steps forward to do what we need to do to change or improve the thing, because I'm pretending not to see it, right? I got a comment. Some people have played actor so great and been getting some people have been playing actor, right? Actor so great and been getting accolades from others. Living in our authentic self is so foreign and so far off because what is more acceptable is what others have adopted. That's huge. That's huge. So many of us have, man, that's huge. So what is he saying? He's saying that we've created these roles, right? And we've become like award-winning actors and actresses. And that's safer, that's more comfortable, right? Than acknowledging and accepting who we really are, right? Pretending to think a certain way, pretending to feel a certain way, pretending to believe a certain thing, pretending to do certain things. We've created this alternate reality, right? We've created this different dimension, right? And we live there, and our reality, or as my brother said, our authentic selves are so foreign to us. Like we don't even have a relationship with the real us because we've yet to accept the real us. And we stay stuck in these goofy cycles for years and years and years because of this, right? And it begins at home, and then in the community and in the world. There are certain things that have been deemed as unacceptable, and therefore we struggle to accept these things about ourselves. And what we think is that we're protecting ourselves by not accepting them, but actually, to the contrary, we're keeping ourselves in bondage by not accepting these things. And the pain, the stress, the pressure of being in character all the time is what's causing us to have these issues. It's what's causing the anxiety, it's what's causing the depression, is what's causing all of this stuff. It's what's causing us to act out. It's what's causing us to struggle in our relationships. It's what's causing us to struggle to put our best foot forward, because we don't even know which foot is our best foot. We haven't yet explored that because we haven't accepted who we actually are. In every aspect of our lives, we develop different representations. Exactly. And this is what we're working to kill. So I'm glad you brought that up. So self-acceptance is taking a really hard look at ourselves and taking ownership for what we see, right? Not pretending that we don't see it, not pretending that we don't feel it, not pretending that that's not a desire of ours, right? So oftentimes, instead of us having the courage to say, man, I really want that, if society doesn't agree with that, or if my current situation, right, this actor, this image, this persona that I've put up if that doesn't align, then I have to pretend like that's not a desire of mine, right? Or let's say it's something that's an unhealthy desire, right? Let's go dark. Let's say it's something that's not even like, let's say it's something that's quote unquote creepy, right? If we pretend that it's not there or doesn't exist, then it's just going to fester. It's just going to sit there. And there's going to be this inner turmoil, this constant battle within ourselves. Instead of us owning it and questioning it and ridding ourselves of it, right? Taking the necessary actions to grow from it, it just sits dormant. And then it'll occasionally show itself, right? So it's so important that we remove these different masks, these different faces that we have, and get in touch with who we actually are. And is it easy? No, it's not easy. Is it simple? Yes, it is simple. Should you seek guidance with the process? Of course, right? But should you do it? Absolutely, right? An honest self-assessment and taking responsibility for who you are, for where you are, is the thing to do. It's the number one thing that we need to do in order for us to grow. Because oftentimes what we're doing is we're stunting our own growth when we don't do this. So we pursue things, right? We figure if we get to a couple dollars, that's going to take care of it. You know, we come up with these different conquests, right? If I get this many women, if I make this much money, if I get these letters behind my name, if I do this, if I do that, then I'm going to check certain boxes. I'm not even going to deal with the reality of me. What we don't understand is that we're in our own way when we have this refusal to accept ourselves. And it's a painful thing that we all go through, because life teaches us once again that there are parts of us that are not acceptable. And we buy into that. And instead of dealing with it, what we do, to Sean's point, is we create this persona, right? We create this image, or we become actors. We become like an avatar, and we go through life basically living lies. And the real, true, pure, authentic version of you is never allowed to flourish, right? We don't develop that. And then we hear things like self-love. We hear things like, be true, be authentic, keep it real, blah, blah, blah. But the vast majority of us don't have, or should I say, have not accepted the challenge or responsibility of living an authentic life, because at the core, the first step to living an authentic life is acknowledging who we are and where we are. And that requires self-acceptance, like what we're sharing about today. So it's a very, very, it can be intimidating, right? Because again, we feel like if I accept this, then I'm defined by it, right? And that doesn't have to be the case. Again, we're talking about where we are. We are humans, right? So just because something is my present reality doesn't mean that this is it, that I'm stuck here, right? It means that I understand and acknowledge where I am. I understand and acknowledge who I am. And now I get to, right, take responsibility for growing and developing these things in my life, right? Growing and developing in those areas that there are opportunities for growth, and also building on my strengths, because it's not, again, it impacts our strengths and weaknesses. A lot of people have these amazing gifts and talents, but won't lean into them, won't invest in themselves, because we have not yet accepted that that's our thing. And we talk about passion, find your passion, find your gift, da, 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 da. That's why whenever I'm asked, I'll say, you pretty much know, but are you willing to accept it, own it, right? And then start working toward bringing it to a reality, right? Making it a part of you. And that's where the challenge comes in. But it takes courage to say, I want to be me. Damn, let's say that again. It takes courage to say, I want to be me. That sounds so like oxymoronic, right? Why would that be a thing? But unfortunately, it's a thing for most of us, right? It takes courage to say, I want to be me. It takes courage to say I failed, and not saying our standards is important. It takes courage to not allow others to dictate our journey or our movie. I like that. Many of us have to redevelop courage. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And I love how you put that. Thank you. So it's like, we have to find the courage to believe in, to trust in ourselves, to just accept who we are, right? And we've been, again, to your point, we've been playing a role for so long that who we really are is a stranger, right? And who we really are, there's this awkwardness that comes with that, right? There's this discomfort that comes with that, but we have to have the courage, to your point, to go forward anyhow, right? We have to have the courage to take responsibility for our lives. And it's tough. Like it's very, very tough because, again, some of us have been living these, been in these roles for decades. And basically that's all we know. But what we don't realize is that what I've learned is that the more I accept all of me, right, the more I'm open and willing to have the courage to really look within and take ownership and responsibility for who I am, for my thoughts, my feelings, my insights, my gifts, my talents, right, my desires, for everything that encompasses me. It empowers me, right, to, number one, understand who I am, understand my gifts and talents, and develop them, right? Because not only when I develop my gifts and talents does it help me, it helps everyone that I'm connected to. And then also those areas of opportunity, those areas for growth, those things that I want to change, now they're clear, right? They're clear because I've accepted that this is a thing. So now, again, responsibility is like, okay, this is a thing. Let me figure out, right, how to tackle this, how to attack this, how to take this and actually make it work for me, right? How can I take this area of improvement and not only improve it, but use it to make me a better person? And then in turn, in my case, share that story, share that process with people and help them to grow and become better. So there's a lot of amazing things that come from it, but back to that word, it's courage. It takes the courage to really look within and give an honest self-assessment and allow the real you to step forward. And it takes courage. And here's the thing about courage, right? Courage does not denote the absence of fear, the absence of anxiety, the absence of whatever words you want to plug in there, right? Courage means you feel the fear, you feel the pain, you're afraid, but you do it anyway, right? You do it anyway. And some people say, well, how the hell do you do that? I'm afraid, I'm nervous. I don't know what that's going to look like, right? I don't know what I'm going to lose in finding myself. Ooh, that's a good one there. What and who could I possibly lose in finding me? And am I willing to do that? Am I willing to risk it all to find myself, right? To free myself? Am I willing to do that? That is, that's the $1 million question, right? That's where, when we talk about courage, right? That's where that comes in, because we're fighting that, right? We're fighting with that. Man, if I completely just am free and I show up as me fully, right? How's that going to affect my wife? How's it going to affect my husband? How's it going to affect my significant other? How are my children going to be impacted? What does that mean at the job? What does that mean? Like, what does that mean in the world? What does that mean at the church? What does that mean in the community? What does that mean in the world? I've been living this lie. I want to use that to make the point. I've been in this role for so long that now the real me, as I try to bring him or her forward, how's that going to impact the world? And it's like, man, things are going to, there's going to be some disruption. And that takes a lot of courage to be okay with that, right? To be willing to value yourself enough to go through that. And so someone says, man, listen, I got this far. Why would I do that? I have a great situation. If I really speak up, if I really do this, then this is going to crash and burn. So I always go to this question, right? Whenever someone has a challenge, right? And there's an action that they can take, but they're reluctant to take the action. And I use this myself, and I also share it with people. I always look at the alternative, right? Okay. So we come up with an action, right? The action, like today, we're talking about self-acceptance. So these are some of the self-acceptance. This is some of the things that it's going to cost you. So, okay, I say, okay, what's the cost of inaction? So if you do it, these are the benefits, right? You're going to find your starting point. You're going to be able to develop your gifts and talents. You're going to be able to address the areas of improvement that exist in your life. You're going to be able to develop a healthy relationship with yourself. You're going to be able to develop healthy self-esteem. You're going to get to know yourself, right? You're going to be able to repair, right, all of the things in your life that have been damaged due to you trying to keep up this facade, right? You're going to be able to be free and have inner peace, right? I could have just said that and stopped there. You're going to be able to have inner peace, right? You're going to free yourself of the stress and pressure of living up to this character that you've created. And so again, back to the point, there's an act. So we understand the benefits of self-acceptance, right? Learning more about it and actually making it a daily practice. What's the opposite, right? What's the alternative? Okay. 10 years from now, you're still battling with these issues, trying to maintain this particular image or facade that you've created. What does that mean, right? What's the damage that's going to be caused, right? Whatever challenges you're having right now, they're only going to be 10x as time goes on, right? So, what's the cost of your inaction? So I always look at that, right? So if someone says, man, I hate this job, I just want to quit, I want to do it. Okay. So you understand this particular situation. Okay. You identify a way forward, but you're reluctant to go forward. So if you don't, what's the cost of your inaction? And that's something that I like to sit with personally. And I like to write it out because, I like to let my brain just go. And it's like, wow, if I don't do this, man, what's the alternative? I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this. So it's just like, pick your poison, they say, right? At least the freedom that exists on the other side of self-acceptance, the freedom that exists on the other side of having the courage to go on this exploration is worth it. Right? Is it really worth it to stay in that bubble, to stay in that box? That's something that we have to sit with. And here's something about knowledge and information, right? Once we hear it, once we get it, once we understand it, once we're exposed to it, we then become responsible and accountable to it. You can't unhear it, right? Like you can't unsee it, And so now that's just adding to that inner civil war. It's just adding to that disruption that's going on in our minds. It's just another thing for us to battle against. And quite honestly, it doesn't serve us at all. Right? Now we're back to consciousness, right? Now that we're aware that this is taking place, now that we are aware that, wow, this is how I've been living my life. Now that I'm conscious and I'm aware, I'm responsible for next steps. I'm responsible for what takes place. And then what happens is, and we go through this cycle, all of us have been there. Now we have this inner turmoil because we don't want to accept ourselves. We're trying to live up to this avatar. So we have this anxiety and depression and we have this self-hate going on, and we have this going, and our relationships are damaged because if I said how I really felt, and if I did what I really wanted to do, and if blah, 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 if I moved how I really wanted to move. And so we have that battle going on internally, and then it spills out into our relationships, and it impacts our lives in a negative way. And we get stuck there. And then we just dig and dig and dig and dig a deeper hole for ourselves to later on then attempt to climb out of. And it's a painful cycle, but many people, many of us are stuck in that cycle. I have to say the vast majority of people are stuck in that cycle. Like, unfortunately, things like self-acceptance, things like personal responsibility, these things are foreign to most people. I know they were foreign to me until I did the work these past few years. Like, these things were foreign to me. These daily practices, these things that now have become a part of me and are helping me to create a life for myself. These things were foreign to me. But now that I have them, they literally saved my life, and they changed my life, and they helped me to grow and maintain where I am, right? But they help me to transform and grow and morph into someone new, a different, better, higher expression of myself every day. So these things are powerful, but we have to be willing, or to Sean's point, have the courage, right, to take the leap, right? To want better for ourselves. We have to have the courage to want better for ourselves. Because if I say I want better, then my brain is going to go looking for answers. And when I find the answers, right, now I have a decision to make. Am I going to apply this information? Am I going to look deeper? Am I going to do the things that I discover? Like, am I going to apply this, or am I just going to gather this information? Right? Now, again, I'm adding more pressure, because now I understand, or I have knowledge of that. Wow, there's a way forward. When you're stuck, you're just stuck, right? But when it occurs to you that there's a way forward, first it occurs to you that you want out, you want to move forward. Then the way forward shows up, and you understand, like, wow, there are things that I can do. Like, there's better, right? There's a better version of me that wants to come forward, right? There's a higher expression of me. There's more possible, right? Right? Like, wow, I don't have to be stuck in this bubble. I don't have to live this lie anymore. Now, if we don't start taking the necessary steps to free ourselves from the lie, then we're adding more pressure. And this is why, we're having all of these mental health issues. This is why we have people blowing up. This is why we have these anger issues. This is why we have this anxiety. This is why we have this depression. This is why we have this self-hate. This is why people are self-medicating, right? Whether it be actual drugs, or should I say, like, prescription drugs, or, smoking, or having drinking habits, because, man, I just can't deal with my present reality. So I need to do something to change this reality, because if I sit quietly, or if I actually, process, like, I can't take it, it's just too noisy in there. And what we don't understand is we have within us the power to quiet that noise. We have within us the power to bring order, right, within ourselves, which will in turn bring order to the environment around us, right? So, that's something that we have to come to grips with. And it's, unfortunately, the vast majority of us don't have the courage to take the step forward, don't have the courage to accept all of themselves, right? And that's where we get stuck. Because, again, like I said in the beginning, it's impossible to have healthy self-esteem if we don't accept ourselves. Any choice, wait, I think I missed. What am I going to lose in finding myself? I'm glad you hashtag. That's beautiful. That was major. Any choice comes with an invoice that must be paid regardless. Bingo. That's why I always say, let's look at the alternative. Let's look at, okay, what's the outcome? Like, what are the possible outcomes if I don't take action, right? That's why I say, what's the cost of your inaction? Why continue to act making choices that doesn't benefit you? Because when you pay for those choices, the real you will pay, not the actor. Woo! Brother, let me read this again. Any choice comes with an invoice. I like that, first of all. I might put that on the shirt. The invoice has to be paid regardless. Why continue to act making choices that doesn't benefit you? Because when you pay for those choices, the real you has to pay, not the actor. So this version of you, this avatar, this actor, right, this facade that you've created, right, doesn't have, he or she just lives free, right? He or she doesn't have to pay the prices. But once you come to an understanding that, man, I am the sum total of my decisions. My life is the sum total of my decisions. So those decisions that you're making, the prices to be paid, the invoice is being billed to the real you. And so you are victimizing yourself, right? You're choking yourself. You're keeping yourself in bondage. You're keeping yourself from living your authentic life based on these choices that you're making. So I'm glad you said that, because that's another dive into personal responsibility, because owning your choices and understanding that my life right now is the sum total of my decisions, right? Not my mother, not my father, not my wife, not my children, not the community, not the politicians. My life is the sum total of my decisions. Do those people and things have an impact on my world? Of course they do. But I can stand here and say that any goofy thing that I did that, right? There was always another way forward, especially when I began to pursue knowledge, right? Now I have a clear understanding that, okay, what else could this mean? What are the other choices? And that's why I always look at, okay, what are the possible outcomes here? And then as we develop our decision-making skills, right? That's when we get to a place where, we can really take responsibility. But first and foremost, we have to start accepting all of us, right? If I don't even acknowledge that I want more, if I don't even acknowledge that I freaking hate it here, like they say, right? If I don't even acknowledge that there's more possible for me, and if I don't acknowledge that, wow, if I make certain choices, like the decisions I make can change the direction I'm going, which will change the destination that's waiting for me. But none of that, we never get there if we don't accept who we are and where we are and all of it, right? If we wonder why we're not living fully, right? We're not walking in our greatness. We're not allowing ourselves to flourish, right? We're not walking in every room as the best version of ourselves. At the root of that is self-acceptance, right? Some of us haven't even given ourselves credit or taken ownership or acknowledged or accepted the fact that we have these gifts and talents, right? We see them, we feel them, we know they're there, but we don't believe in them. And therefore we don't execute, we don't own them, we don't accept them, right? That's like, I show up and I have these gifts, I have these things for you, but you refuse to take them. But they're yours, they're in your name, they belong to you, but you refuse to take them. You refuse to take possession of them. And that's what you're doing. But unfortunately, in that case, I can take the thing and say, okay, well, I can just kind of put it aside. When it comes to us, right, these things that exist on the inside of us, it starts this battle, right? And then we have this freaking battleground going on, right? This inner civil war going, and we're walking around and we may be smiling and we may look peaceful. We may look like we're at ease, but literally inside of us, guns are blazing. And so it's an amazing, it's an amazing thing that I don't think we realize we have the power to change. We have the power to transform. We have the power to literally free ourselves from the bondage that we've placed ourselves in, right? And allowed the world to place us in. Let's see. Acceptance is an action word. It's a place of movement. It's a process. It's a noun, not a verb. Brother, yes. It's something. That's why everything I talk about, these are practices, right? These are things that we must do on a daily basis. So self-acceptance, I don't just accept me today and boom. No, it's a constant thing. Every moment, every thought, every word, everything that encompasses who I am, I have to just accept it because I relieve the pressure. It's like everything is built up and then you're able to relieve that pressure. And it's like, we don't realize how powerful we are, right? So you're absolutely right. It's absolutely an action word. It's a thing we have to do, right? It's something we do. Self-acceptance is something we do. And it's not just a one-time thing. It's a daily practice. It must become it must become a part of who we are, right? So, well said, brother. Well said, for sure. I think I had a question in here. Wait, where did it go? No, I either had a question or a request to go on the camera, but it vanished. Anyway, so great points, Sean. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, thank you, cousin. Glad you jumped on. So I think I got all the comments. So what questions can I answer as far as how we move forward? And the process allows us to evolve, which is exactly. So the process allows us to evolve. Let's look at that for a moment. And if anyone has questions, throw them in the little question thing or just throw them in the comments and I'll definitely answer them. So let's look at that. The process of self-acceptance, which we said is an action word, which we said is something that we do. It's a way that we live, right? Self-acceptance is a part of us. I am self-acceptance, right? So it allows us to evolve. Allows. Why would he use allows? Right? He didn't use that word. He used that word intentionally, I should say, right? It allows. It gives us the opportunity, right? It puts us in position to, right? It frees us from where we are. It unlocks, right? It gives us the ability to. So when we do not, the opposite takes place. When we are not accepting of ourselves, when we don't have self-acceptance as a pillar in our daily lives, as a practice in our daily lives, then we keep ourselves in bondage. We keep ourselves in chains. We keep ourselves at war with ourselves. But this process, this action of self-acceptance allows us to evolve, right? It allows us to grow. It allows us to become a higher expression of ourselves, right? A greater version of ourselves, our pure, authentic selves. It allows us to, right, love ourselves, right? People talk about self-love all the time, right? But if we really look at it, how am I going to learn to love me when there's parts of me that I haven't yet accepted? I need to be able to love my gifts and talents. I need to be able to love even those things that I'm not proud of, right? I need to be able to love myself through those things, right? I need to be able to love myself through that process. So it's something, it feeds itself, right? I walk in self-acceptance, right? Which allows me, right, to move forward and grow and to become a better me. And I'm learning to love all of me because I'm accepting all of me, right? And that love, again, it empowers me, it encourages me, it lifts me up, and it frees me, right, to be more accepting of myself. And it's something that it builds on itself. So now that's why even when I started with the example I gave about the exchange with my wife and I, that I'm at the point where whatever shows up, I'm okay with it. No matter how goofy and crazy, like if it shows up, I own it. And now when my advantages, when my gifts, when my talents, when those things show up as well, when they show themselves, I'm able to lean into those as well. Whereas before I was just walking around with blinders on, I was just like sticking to the script, right? To your point about being an actor, I was just sticking to the script. I need to stay. I need to just stay right here between these lines. And this is this because, I don't want to say too much. I don't want to do too much because the real me might a little bit of the real me might come out, and I don't know how that's going to impact. And the fear of that and the pressure of that, right? Imagine that. Imagine trying to have a conversation, right? And you're battling with, like, you have this battle going on. So you can't even have a healthy conversation and just allow things to flow because you have this battle going on inside of your head. Like your mind is a battleground, and that doesn't have to be the case. And what we don't realize is the simple way forward is self-acceptance. Accept all of you. And I know I'm saying it so you just accept all of you, but it's a life-changing practice that we must put into effect in our lives, right? It must become like it must become a priority. And so for me, because I understand the power of self-image, right? Healthy self-image, because I understand the power of healthy self-esteem, because I understand that at the root of everything that we do, right, is what stands at the root is our image of ourselves. And if I'm not willing to accept me, what does that say about my image of me, right? I'm not acceptable. I'm not enough, right? I'm not worthy. And this is the story that we tell ourselves unintentionally, right? When we refuse to accept ourselves. So self-acceptance is the key to unlock the door to a healthy self-image, to building that healthy self-esteem, which as we build those things, as those become our foundation, then we equip ourselves with the fundamentals, with the foundation to tackle any and everything that life throws our way. Any and everything. Any and everything. You name it. Any and everything. I don't care what life throws our way. When we are accepting of ourselves, when we have healthy self-image, and when we have healthy self-esteem, and when we have these practices in our lives, we know that we're equipped, right? We know that we're capable of handling whatever life throws at us, and we know that we're worthy of, right, the spoils of victory, right? We're worthy of winning. We're worthy of love. We're worthy of honor. We're worthy of respect. We're worthy of being treated kindly, right? We're worthy of compliments, right? You ever give someone a compliment and they tell you a story? Like, dog, just say thank you. But I have this battle going on, and I'm wondering, why would you compliment me? Because ... And there's all of this stuff going on. But when we free ourselves of that, again, it's like, on a bike tire, when you hit that little in that air, and now you get to move through the world at an entirely different pace. And it changes everything. It changes first and foremost how you see you, right? You learn to value you. You learn to honor yourself. You learn to respect yourself. You learn to speak to yourself kindly. You learn to treat yourself, right, the way you would treat someone who you're responsible for caring for, right? You start to learn to, what I'm saying is, love yourself, right? But you have to accept and acknowledge yourself before you can even learn to love yourself, right? That's like if you get into a relationship, right? We want honesty, right? We want openness. We want to be allowed to make a decision for ourselves. So we want our loved ones to share with us, who they really are, right? And we want to love them through whatever they have going on, right? We want to build with them, right? We understand that we're all flawed individuals. So we want that honesty. We want that openness. And when that shows up, right now, if you tell me that A, B, and C is a challenge for you, guess what I get to do? I get to help you, right, through A, B, and C. Right? I get to stand with you, and I get to decide that this is where we are, and this is what we're going to do, right? So, but if you're not honest, if you don't tell me what the challenges are, then how am I going to be a good partner? And then you have the audacity to, you have the audacity to not appreciate me as a partner, but you didn't even give me the opportunity, right? You didn't even give me the opportunity, right? Let's look at work, right? If we work together, right? Then if you're having challenges, if you're struggling with something, but you don't speak up, you don't say, hey, I understand, A and B, but C, where does that come in? What's this process look like? What's going on this part? If you don't speak up, how do I know? How am I going to be of service? How am I going to help? I can't. You won't even give me the opportunity to help you. And what's under all of that? You won't accept that this is a challenge for you. Right. And now 3 months go by and here I am thinking you understood the process, and now you cost us some money. Or now or now our relationship, we're having drama in our relationship because you refuse to take ownership and open up and allow us to work through this together. Like, there's a lot of ways that it shows up, man. I can go all day, but beneath it all is self-acceptance, right? And allowing ourselves to be ourselves. Like, that's what we have to do. Pardon me. Pardon me. There's a bunch of folks outside the door. But anyway, any questions, right? Any questions I can answer. Battlefield of the mind. This is all biblical principles. Exactly. So any questions I can answer. Good afternoon, young lady. Any questions I can answer about self-acceptance? Where it fits, how it fits, anything that I covered that you didn't quite understand, anything that you'd like to dispute, right? Anything that didn't make sense and you think I was just freestyling, whatever it might be, let's do it. Fire away. Brother, God can only do for you with and through you. And if you don't self-accept, then blessings will always be blocked. So let's talk about that, right? That's an amazing point. Let's talk about that, right? In the church, they used to say that God is a gentleman, right? That he's not going to force himself upon you, right? And regardless of your belief system, you understand this, right? That lest you grant permission, right, nothing can happen, right? And then he says something about your blessings being blocked, right? For a long time, what I kept showing up to talk about is being in our own way. Not accepting all of you is being in your own way. Because think about it. If there's a challenge and you need assistance, if you need help overcoming said challenge, but you won't own that this is a challenge, then the help can't show up. You can't get the help that you want. So to your point, right? You have to raise your hand, right? And then once you raise your hand, you have to open the door and allow the help to come in. But if I won't even acknowledge that or accept that this is an issue, this is a concern, this is something that I want or need in my life, then I'm in my own way. And again, it's not only on the negative side, on the positive side, right? Let's look at that, right? You've been given gifts, you've been given talent, you've been given these amazing skills and abilities. If we don't accept them, if we don't accept the call, if we don't take ownership for them and begin to develop those skills, then guess what? Right? Those gifts and talents that we've been given, we never, what's the word I want to say? We never see the fruit of those gifts and talents, right? We never produce, right? And then we have all this wasted potential, which causes more frustration. You know how it is when you know you can do more, when you know that there's more available, right? But you have all this turmoil going on inside, right? And because you have this turmoil going on the inside, you don't execute, you don't show up, you don't ask questions, you don't ... Now you're in your own way. You're blocking your own blessings. So it's help and it's support. And then we say, oh, no one has our back. No, we don't have support. If you had self-acceptance, if you were to own all of you, right, then the help would show itself, right? The assistance would come, the support would come, but right, we haven't leaned into our gifts and we haven't leaned into our areas of improvement. Instead, we're committed to this avatar. We're committed to this, playing this role and keeping ourselves in bondage. And that sucks. But that's the reality for most of us. We're sometimes our worst enemies for ourselves all the time. All the time. I mean, 99.999% of the time, it's us, right? It's us. So if we get out of our own way, to your point, right? If we are on our own side, which is where I started with this whole dialogue, right? Being on our own side, if we are a friend to ourselves, if we are no longer in an adversarial relationship with ourselves and we decide to love ourselves unconditionally, which means we accept all of us, then then we're able to get out of our own way. We know we become a friend to ourselves versus an enemy. And then we can love on ourselves and continue to develop ourselves. Development of our gifts and talents is very important. It's vitally important. It's life and death, right? Death is not just when your heart stops and they put you in the ground. Some of us are walking dead, right? Because we refuse to take ownership, responsibility, and acceptance for who we are. And therefore, we're living a life that's a lie. And we feel dead on the inside. And that's why we feel outcast. That's why we feel unwanted. That's why we feel unloved. That's why we feel unworthy. At the root of that is a refusal to accept all of ourselves. Because again, healthy self-image, healthy self-esteem, which impact our focus and our decisions and how we move throughout the world, those things are impossible to attain without self-acceptance. So listen, these things are attainable, but we have to accept ourselves first, right? In order for these things in order to allow these things to show up in our lives. So any questions? Any questions before I bail? I appreciate you folks jumping on and commenting. I really, really appreciate it. Any questions? I'm gonna wait a few seconds. I know it takes a minute to throw. The gifts and talents that's within us are put on the shelf because of what you see externally. The struggle, the lack of, or not having take priority, and it's sad because it's not permanent. Exactly. So we sacrifice who we could be, right, for who we feel like we should be. We sacrifice possibilities, right, to continue to live these lives. And most of us, it's not conscious, right? So we're not walking around thinking about, sacrificing the amazing human being that I could be to be this person that I think everyone will accept, everyone will like, or yada, yada, yada. But this is what we're doing. And that's why, again, that's why it's so important for us to wake up and become conscious thinkers, because we're keeping ourselves in bondage because of our refusal to grow, right? Our gifts and talents are on the back burner, or they're somewhere in the attic collecting dust because, if I show up, if I allow my greatness to shine, what's that going to mean? What's that mean for this version of me that I've created, right? If I allow my greatness to shine, because I created this person based on ... But if I'm no longer, if my gifts and talents, if I allow them to shine, then I become someone different. And what does that mean? Right? And we have to be willing to explore that. So it's an amazing thing, but we have to be willing to go in there, right? We have to be willing to go up in the attic. We have to be willing to, back to the words you said, Sean, we have to have the courage to love ourselves. And we cannot love ourselves if we're not accepting of ourselves, right? Just like, again, any relationship we look at, if we look at our significant other, if we look at our children, there has to be acceptance, right? You accept your children for who they are and you love them. And you love them through it, right? You love them through their areas of the opportunities for growth. You love them through their weaknesses. You love them through their pain points. And your hope, your dream, your goal, your prayer is to help them to develop their gifts and talents, right? Help them to identify and develop. So the same rules must apply to us. But we don't look at it like that because, again, we've been living on autopilot for so long that it just doesn't occur to us that the very thing that we hope and pray for our children, we have the ability to give to ourselves. What you see is not what you get, but that's a whole nother thing we can dive into, brother. We sometimes paint an unrealistic picture and accept the lie we tell ourselves. Oh, absolutely. That's what we do. Literally, that's what we do when we live on autopilot. That's exactly what we do. We pick things up along the way, and we do say and think, and we do and say things that we feel are acceptable based on our environment. That's why you have these people that wear masks. That's why you see people who you've known, and then you know them as one person, and then they get around certain crowds, and then they morph into something else, and you're like, well, who the heck is that? Because over here, this is acceptable, but over here, this is acceptable, but over here, this is acceptable. And the pressure of that. So it's funny, we talked about the actor, right? It's not even one role, right? There's many, many roles that, that we morph into, right? We just put on a different hat and just boom. And not that we're not complicated, and not that there aren't different versions of us, but it's vital that we understand that the best version of us, right? The appropriate best version of us for a given moment is who needs to show up, not the version of us that we think is acceptable in this particular setting, right? So it's a crazy thing, but I need to go. Any other questions? Anything else? Anything I can answer? You guys rock. This was great. What time is it? Ooh, Sean, you be keeping me on here for a long time, brother. It's all your fault. Anything else? All right, I'm going to bail. I really, really appreciate you guys for jumping on and, attending this masterclass on self-acceptance. This was fun, as always. This was a challenging one in the beginning for me to get my claws into, because it's so much depth involved, right? No, it isn't you, it's me, brother. I can go for 4 hours. I can just zone out and go. That's where that good depth comes in, right? But anyway, enjoy the rest of y'all day. I truly appreciate y'all. I'll be back on tomorrow with another masterclass, another deep dive into another life-changing subject. But listen, learn to accept all of you. Nah, please don't. No. Actually, speak more. Bring it. This is great. This is life-changing stuff, right? It's causing me to self-check and turn my self-acceptance meter up even higher, right? To make sure I'm not denying any parts of me. So yeah, this is great, man. I appreciate you. So enjoy the rest of your day. I appreciate you and everyone else that jumped on. And I really hope that one thing you were able to grasp and will begin to accept all of the amazing parts of you, and develop those gifts and talents and work on those pain points and just accept and own all of it, so you can develop a healthier part of the image of yourself, which is the key to everything that you desire in life. Oh man, they said they came. Yeah, man, I missed it. Whoops, I forgot to stop the video. Missed my FedEx delivery.